My name is Arlene. I'm 82 years old. I'm not telling you my last name, although I have no problems with anybody knowing that I've had an abortion. I'm just afraid that if some person who considers to be pro-life hears this, they may want to decide to kill me. So I'm not giving you I'm not mentioning my last name. I'm telling this story because of what's happening with the Supreme Court right now, and that we may be going back in time. I've heard other people's stories. Most of them are not people my age and women who had children. Or you have to understand the times that this happened. When I was growing up, girls and boys did not do the same kinds of things. There were separate roles for males and females, and boys were not supposed to play with dolls and girls were not supposed to play with trains. I always assumed that I was going to be getting married. I'd be changing my name, and I'd be a stay-at-home mom, and my husband would have a job. And I got my first disappointment in high school when any of the boys who did as well in math and science as I did got to take calculus and physics in their senior year, and I had to take stenography and typing, so I would always have something to fall back on. And that was, the first time it hit me that something was not right about the system. In college, I majored in sociology, and the only reason my parents felt that it was okay for me to go to college was because that way I would get a better husband. I was not supposed to be going to college for any kind of self-fulfillment. I got married in 1961. In 1964, I had a miscarriage. People have said to me, if you'd ever had a miscarriage, you would know how horrible it is to lose a child, and you would never even think about an abortion. Well, yes, when I had the miscarriage, psychologically, my baby had died, and that's how I felt about it. The doctor treated me like shit. It was obviously my fault. I was too physically active at the time for a pregnant woman to be, and it was my own fault if I had the miscarriage. I chose my new gynecologist for totally political reasons. Even though birth control was legal for unmarried women, he was the only doctor in New Brunswick at the time that was prescribing birth control pills for undergraduates, for unmarried undergraduates. In 1966, women were not breastfeeding. It was considered to be dirty. And I was part of the new movement of women who decided to breastfeed. I had never held a baby. And people couldn't believe that I would show my breasts in public. The following year, I actually had a diaphragm, and I got pregnant with the diaphragm. So my daughter was born in 1966. My son was born 15 months after her. We decided, even though we weren't ready to have another child, we decided, well, we're going to have a second one eventually. And, and that one went. I got an IUD, and I remember the doctor telling this new wonderful doctor, the one who delivered both my children, this new wonderful doctor told me that it's, don't worry, it's 97% effective. And I remember joking with him that means it's 3% ineffective. And we never thought that joke would come to fruition. But I did get pregnant when my daughter was just 3 and my son would have been 20 months old. In fact, I think they were both still in diapers, if I'm remembering right. There was no way I could have had another child. I had been home with my children for 2 years. I'd been home taking care of them. I was teaching at the community college part-time. Al got a job in New York State, in Schenectady, New York, working for GE. Just before I discovered I was pregnant, and he moved up there. I was finishing out the semester teaching and trying to sell the house. And what was happening politically, now this was 1969, what was happening politically is that there were groups of rabbis and ministers, as well as doctors, that were advising women or recommending women to doctors who would perform abortions uh, illegally or out of the country. When I got the positive pregnancy test, I didn't know that just 2 weeks before, New Jersey had passed a law that made abortions legal if to save the mother's life. And that was the only rationale, was to save the mother's life. Anyway, I got the positive pregnancy test. I asked to speak to the doctor. He got on the phone. I said to him, the nurse said, "Oh, congratulations, you're pregnant." I said, "Let me speak to Dr. Ricefield." He got on the phone. I said to him, "I have to have an abortion." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I'll kill myself." And bang, that was to save my, he was, I realized in retrospect that he was testing the new law. Anyway, he got me 3 psychiatric recommendations saying that I was suicidal. He had to bring it before a hospital. I had the 3 psychiatric recommendations. It had to go before a board of directors at the hospital who said that I could only have the abortion if my husband approved. Now, this was to save my life. When Al was coming home on weekends, I was going crazy. I was on the phone with him for hours at a time when this was before phones were free. This was like $2 a minute or something. We spent hundreds of dollars on the phone during that very short period of time. But he went ballistic. He went absolutely ballistic, screaming that he's not going to sign this thing. He doesn't own me. I'm not his property. And I pointed out to him that we didn't have time for him to fight this in the courts. So he did sign, and he went away. And then they came back the following week and said, "But you have to have your tubes tied." And which was not now it's just simple surgery. At that time it was abdominal surgery. Before, when we were talking about me getting an abortion, I had actually suggested getting a tubal ligation, and Al had talked me out of it. He said, "What happens if he dies and I marry somebody who wants to have a child? Or what happens if something happened to one of our children? You're just 29 years old. You should not be you should not be cutting off the possibility." Well, my feeling, I mean, I had no choice. I had to get my tubes tied, and we needed his permission again to get my tubes tied. Talk about being property, but for years afterwards, I would, at that time, I had a scar on my stomach. And for years afterwards, every time I got dressed, I'd see that scar and I'd start to cry. It just, and it wasn't because I'd had the abortion, it was because of everything that we had gone through to get it. And the scar reminded me. But when I said before that when uh, I had the miscarriage, it was to my baby had died. Psychologically, this time I had a cancer that was taking over my body and was threatening to take over my life.